We'll offer 150,000 for full title.
When do we get our money, Daniel?
I look at people and I see nothing worth liking.
Don't bully me, Daniel, please!
I see the worst in people.
We have a sinner with us.
Get out of here, devil!
I have a competition in me. I want no one else to succeed. I can't keep doing this on my own. With these, people.
Hello, I'm Thomas Carruthers, and
I'm David Whiting.
we are currently again in the weird timescale of things. I have achieved immortality. I can live forever, and I can go fatter and thinner in space.
You'll be talking about Paul Thomas Anderson for the rest of eternity,
more or less. And we, yes, we're recording 2 over the space of 3 days, and then the next ones we record, David, will be in 5 months. The endless liminality of the farce that I've set up, and
God only knows how you keep track of it all.
And now the farce continues. My computer is finally bust, and so
as is mine.
I'm currently awaiting a new computer. And so hence, this is my first one without a screen for you video watchers. So you get to see the glorious sides of Lord and Savior Daniel Plainview. As we continue our trip, our foray through the world of Paul Thomas Anderson.
You know Daniel Plainview, that guy, he abandoned his child. Don't know if you heard.
He did abandon his child. David, we once read a screenplay of my own where I commented that I'd never felt more seen by a character than the serial killer pervert, absolute the most evil man I've ever written, because he had a line where he said, "Murder is actually just a matter of good scheduling or something."
It's all about timetables.
And weirdly enough, we started this conversation talking about timetables. Is there, when Daniel Plainview started talking about there's a competition in me and I hate most people, how eerily reminiscent of it was it of late night conversations me and you have had?
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh, I see why Tom likes this movie then.
This is There Will Be Blood. This is our 5th of 9 films. Who knows? By the time this comes out, he may release another. But no,
I'll have another one out.
This is our 5th of 9 films. We've already looked at Hard. We've already looked at Boogie Nights. We've already looked at Magnolia. We've already looked at Punch Drunk Love. David, as a sort of halfway mark addendum, where is your current Paul Thomas Anderson top seed? Where is it?
I mean, I think I probably liked Boogie Nights a little more than this one. But to be fair, this was pretty damn good. I feel like he really hit his stride in this movie in a way. It felt very different in a lot of ways from other Paul Thomas Anderson movies.
Tremendously so.
This one played. I mean, I wrote it down like watching it. It felt more like I was watching a thriller or a horror movie, and the score really reinforced that. But yeah, I mean, this movie was scary, even though nothing necessarily scary was happening. I was on the edge of my seat with anxiety kind of the whole time, waiting like for the next shoe to drop, sort of thing.
Well, it reminds what is scary to. I think we've come around, our generation. Not me necessarily, but our generation is scared of 3 things: capitalism. They are scared of organized religion, and they are scared of heavy consumers. Heavy consumers of meat. And so this is a very scary film for a lot of people. I, of course, love capitalism. I have said many terrible things.
Yes, you're a huge fan of capitalism and generally love meat and nothing else.
I do love meat.
And you're a burgeoning oil tycoon. So
It could be. It could be. What was the second thing I said? Oh, organized religion.
Organized religion.
I'm not an organized religion fan. I went to a christening on Sunday, and although it was a delightful, wonderful day for our family, a lot of the Christian stuff, I was just like, oh God.
all this God stuff at a christening. Jeez.
I know. It's like so many things about christening. Obviously, the last christening I went to, I was a child, but so many things about christenings I just did not know about. And of course, this is a film that has multiple baptisms and multiple christenings. So was this a? I believe this was a new watch. Was another?
Yeah, this was a first time watch for me. Yeah.
And I think, as you say, it's a very interesting sort of dividing line that has become blurred over time, but there is a big dividing line between Hard Eight, Boogie Nights, Magnolia, all feeling very similar. Punch Drunk Love feeling similar but a tangent. And then all of a sudden we get.
And then all of a sudden we're in the 1800s.
Yeah.
West.
It's not even period. I mean, he's done period before with Boogie Nights, but I mean, this is not. Well, actually, I'm trying to now envision a sort of jokey, big ensemble oil film, and I can't really fathom it. But this is not a film in that style. It is languid. It is slow. It is tense. It is horrifying, as you say. It features extended conversations about capitalism and oil, and fundamentally comes down to the final image of a man driven by money who has completely grown incredibly isolated, as so many of these, icons of capitalism do. And his only chance at some sort of redemption in his life is to make this one weaselly little kid who did him wrong 30 years ago to make him well, yes, later kill him, but to first make him accept you are a false prophet and God is a superstition.
Stand up, like this is your congregation. They can't hear you in the back.
They can't hear you in the back. Is hilarious. I think. I mean, obviously, I think it's an interesting dynamic. Well, as has been with most of the films we've discussed thus far, in that, Boogie Nights, Magnolia, Jesus Christ, I'm on my 20th, 50th watch, like in whole watches, never mind catching half an hour's here or there. And it was the first time you'd ever seen it. And There Will Be Blood, my numbers are down. I'm ashamed to admit it, but my numbers are down.
This is a hard rewatch. Like, it's a 2.5 hour long movie of watching one man's descent into like just absolute depravity and avarice, basically. It's a tough watch.
Which is where I think we find the second factor of this, which is, I don't know if you'll like come at this from a first watch, but I think it's something that maybe you find over time. I don't know, but I think people return to this movie and rewatch it constantly because they're insane. No, because it eventually becomes quite funny.
Yeah, it's a really dark sort of humor that's all throughout. And I mean, Daniel Plainview is funny as a character.
He's really a hilarious man.
He's such a funny person, like twisted and demented, but so funny.
I also think rewatchability factor. If this film, I mean, obviously it's not going to, because that denies the entire core of the film. But if this film ends with just "you're a bastard from a basket" and then HW walking off, and then just another shot of him sat alone in his mansion, it's not the film that I think people would return to. And I don't think, maybe, I mean, this is like when people, this is terrible, terrible conversation I'm having with you, David. This is like when people say, "Oh, if you take the Joker out of The Dark Knight, it's not that good." It was like, yeah, yeah. Obviously, if the movie was just Lao, it would not be that good. I have all your money. I couldn't trust you with it. I have all your money. Maybe the worst subplot in any major good movie.
Yeah, it's just such a weird little tangent that goes nowhere ultimately. Batman swoops in, goes extrajudicial, and brings him in.
But of course, we do have to set up that Lucius Fox. There's a camera on every.
On every.
Yeah, there's a camera all over Gotham. Oh, very good. Anyway, The Dark Knight, very good. Let's talk about The Dark Knight, because I have a list here, David. Because in the year 2020, I made a series of lists all about the films of the decade, and this was my 2000s list. I had Inglourious Bastards at 14. I've immediately jumped past 15 because I put What Lies Beneath, which is a great thriller that I enjoy, but should not be at number 15. 14, American Psycho. 13, Hot Fuzz. 11, The Assassination of Jesse James. 10, Burn After Reading. 9, Little Miss Sunshine. 8, The Dark Knight. 7, Up in the Air. 6, No Country for Old Men. 5, There Will Be Blood. 4, Zodiac. 3, Children of Men. 2, In Bruges. 1, Mulholland Drive.
In Bruges was fantastic.
In Bruges is great. I think I'm in a minority there when it comes to the 2007 rankings, because 2007, I think, well, you were on our Zodiac episode, and I just mentioned Zodiac.
It's a great year for it's a great decade for film there, the early 2000s.
So There'll Be Blood loses to No Country for Old Men, Best Picture. Yeah, I disagree. I would give it to. I would do There Will Be Blood, Best Picture, Best Director, but and maybe do No Country, Best Screenplay. Keep Best Screenplay.
It's another one I haven't seen, so I wouldn't be able to tell you how it compares to this one. But yeah, this would be a strong contender for Best Film, I would imagine.
Well, I mean over the years now, it's very firmly. I mean, there was a series of lists, of course, 10 years ago for the first 10, the 2010s, and now they've started, lists constantly updating lists have started of films of the century, and this is already topping them. Now, I don't know about a films of the century list 22 years into a century, but
but God damn it, you'll try.
But God damn it, yes, these people are valiant in their effort, and I mean. It just is undeniably a towering achievement.
It's not easy to, I guess, make. I mean, it was gripping in a really weird way. Even when nothing was necessarily happening, you just kind of can't take your eyes away from it. And for such a slow burn, it really does kind of hook you in. I wrote down like the first line of dialogue is 15 minutes into the film. For the first 15 minutes, you're just watching Daniel Plainview dig that well.
It's typical American myth making. I mean, it's a very integral opening, because you can believe very quickly that the myth of he found
self-made man. Yeah,
he found gold, broke his leg, and traversed an ungodly terrain and series of mountains and survived. That's the sort of story that can become a myth very quickly without any embellishment. And then he becomes a man to be feared, and in business, that is something. And then when HW comes along, he's not only a man who's feared, but he is also a man where we will discuss how true his heart is. But on the surface, he is a man with a heart as well as this brutal businessman. And that is a combination that will make you the oil tycoon that he, of course, ends up.
Yeah. I mean, he has no quit in him, Daniel Plainview.
Again, I idolize him.
I mean, idolize is a strong word, but I can respect the man's drive.
How do you feel about this piece of information? This is Paul Thomas Anderson's most profitable movie to date.
Wow. I mean, I could believe that. There Will Be Blood is pretty huge.
Yeah. Oscar
and I
Prestige
mean,
can do that.
In terms of wait, what was that?
I said that Oscar Prestige used to be able to take a film to, like I think Terms of Endearment in 1982 was second to E.T. No, I've got my years completely wrong there, but there was some metric. Anyway, ignore me. Gandhi.
I mean,
Gandhi and E.T.
Just in terms of scale, like of the set and everything that happens and the effects in this movie, it's certainly his most ambitious compared to, any of the stuff that came before. I mean, I can't imagine how they did that massive burning oil rig.
It probably is the most. It still astounds me every time I watch it. There's no amount of behind the scenes information. There's no amount of anything that will. I don't know. The first time you watch The Thing and you see those practical effects and you go, wow.
Yeah.
But then over time, it sort of becomes an admiration. And it's like, well, no, obviously, they have the wires here. And it's like when we did American Werewolf in London, and it's like over time, I know all the gags. It's still incredible when you watch it. But when it comes to the gusher and the fire here, I mean, that will never not be, because they did it. They just quite literally did it. It's the level of, some of the shipwrecks in Master and Commander, some of it is the chariot race in Ben-Hur. We are giving examples that are these great, great epic masterworks.
And I think it helped provoke some incredible performances from the actors that were there, because I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, that's kind of a dream as an actor, is to have an actual massive burning oil rig to work off of, sort of thing. Like
I think the dream for most actors would be to do a Bond movie and dress nice and go to sunny places.
Yeah, burning oil rig probably don't factor into most people's dreams. I think about it. But just in terms of having the actual thing there, because I feel like if we made this same movie nowadays, that would be all done on a green screen set. And you just have to pretend to see this thing. But I mean, when you see all those guys sprinting out of the work camp towards the burning oil rig, they were genuinely doing that. God, it was just an incredible sequence that. I don't know where I was going with that. Just really liked it.
No, it's astounding. I sort of look at. I mean, obviously Anderson's career is not done, but I look at it at current as a sort of pyramid, because we see this trajectory so often of Deer Hunt, let's just say Michael Cimino, because it's the most obvious one. Small film, Deer Hunter, huge epic that is a huge critical and commercial success. What does he do next? Makes a bigger movie that is a huge bomb.
Yeah.
Anderson never does that, and hasn't for the next 4 movies. He is dealing with movies of big scope. The Master has a lot of scope to it, a lot with those recreations of the World War II era. The 50s, sorry, because they're coming home, obviously, the 50s, and those boats and the yachts and stuff. But it doesn't have some of these sequences. Phantom Thread, going again more insular. Licorice Pizza and Inherent Vice, the closest you can get are the sort of largest set pieces in that. Like Licorice Pizza, the next, quote unquote, the next big action set piece he does is the truck going downhill without any gas in Licorice Pizza. And that is a smaller.
Certainly nothing of this scale. I mean, they would have had. They were in the middle of the fucking desert. They would have had to build everything. So yeah, it just kind of blows my mind. Really, it's really well done.
Yeah. So let's talk about influence. So I think when it comes down to it, the biggest influence on this movie is The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, which is a great film from 1948 with Humphrey Bogart, directed by John Huston. We'll talk about John Huston again in a minute, but I mean, the legend has it that Paul Thomas Anderson used to watch this every night whilst filming. That can't be true. That can't be true. But anyway, maybe it is true. Who knows? I know that Spielberg rewatches Lawrence of Arabia before he shoots every movie. Anyway, whatever. And that is a film all about looking for gold. And it drives... Well, I'm going to ruin it now. Well, no, not really, because it's a tragedy and you can see it coming a mile off. But you've got three lead characters. And when it comes down to it, you've got Humphrey Bogart, who ends up completely insane. Yep. And you've got the two other actors who I can't remember the names of, who end up...
I was going to say that opening shot of Daniel Day-Lewis sitting outside of the mine shaft in the windstorm, just kind of huddled there with his cup of coffee in front of the fire. I saw that and I was like, that looks just like Humphrey Bogart's character at the end of The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. You can definitely see the influence for sure. It looks almost like the same shot.
And then you get down to the other characters in that, and by the end of it, they're sort of, they're laughing. They never found the gold, and they laugh. We get a glimpse that HW is going to be all right, but not really. I'm being facetious, because what's the last thing we found out about HW? He's going to go do oil.
Yeah. He's going to go into the same business as his father.
But it comes down to, driving a man insane, and what happens when, by your own choice or not, you remove from the equation everything that will keep you from going insane. Humphrey Bogart is already a grifter in that movie. He is already on his own, so he doesn't have anywhere to go. Daniel Plainview has a son, has friends, to some extent, has
business partners,
has a morality to him. Whether you believe, whether you trust in him or not, whether you agree with him or not, he has rules. He has morality. He doesn't agree with Eli being this false prophet. He doesn't agree with Mary's father beating her. And there are glimpses all throughout
that he has some good in him.
Yeah. I was listening to a very, very good podcast called The Cinephiles, and they did a whole series about The Godfather, and they also did a whole series about There Will Be Blood. And one of the reviewers on there, his big takeaway was that he thinks that Michael is pretty bad from very early on in Godfather. And he thinks that Daniel is like false from the start. Now, I just don't agree, especially in the case of Michael. But here with Daniel, I don't know. I think he's a complex. Well, everybody's complex.
I think he's got shades of gray to him. He does have it seems like a strong sense of morality, but he's also incredibly ambitious and willing to do what he needs to do to succeed in a way. In that initial meeting with the Sunday family, after he's been pretending to go hunting for quail, and really, he's prospecting for oil. He tries to get one over on the Sunday family and essentially offer them much less than what their farm is actually worth for everything that's under it. But once he's caught out, he does up the price. It's not that he ever ends up paying that money to the church, but he's a businessman. He's a businessman first, and he might not necessarily be a monster about it, but he is going to do what he can to get the best deal for himself.
And I feel, and I get the sense that he is absolutely fine. Well, no, he's not absolutely fine at all. Losing out to a businessman who is on his level, but to be beaten at his own game by a small town preacher,
it's too much.
That's too much. That gets to him. And then, as we find, is this dueling sense of moralities. Let's talk about the film in stretches. We've talked about a lot of them so far. The opening, laid up in the gold smelting off.
That opening was tense. I was waiting for that rope to pull him straight down into the mine shaft with the dynamite. I wrote down lift tools, then light dynamite.
How do you think we'd fare, David, down a mine?
Oh, I could never do that shit. The imagery of them all down in that muck, digging the mud out as the oil seeps in, gave me shivers. I could never. And then, oh my God, the collapse of the rig and that wood just absolutely obliterates the man who's down there with him. Horrific stuff. Definitely something I took away from this is I had no idea how people mine for oil.
Oh yeah, I still don't understand the dynamite ending the fire. I mean,
That's exactly what I was thinking. As they were pushing those barrels, all of these guys are going to die. So they're all going to get blown up.
I think when it comes down to, like, I've got it in single minute, but the flashback to the guy dying when Kieran Hines comes and wakes Daniel up and says, "We lost a man down the mine," and he's a religious man, and so the one that he goes and tells Eli about. And that's the first of two, I think, flashbacks. The only other flashback we get is later on, is when he bastard in a basket, and then we have a single flashback to him playing with the hat with the hat, happy families. But the only other flashback we get is this flashback of that guy dying, and it's the steel rod, and it's the cracking of his back, and the rod landing at an angle. It's almost like Anderson will not miss a chance to show the brutality of this world. And I think, in a sense, it's in a way attempting to not redeem Daniel, but show he's made of different stuff. It's like, I was listening to it again, just plugging other podcasts, but the Rewatchables podcast, and they're on about Brad Pitt's dog in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and they're on about how much he eats, and like the drinking and stuff, and he just said, yeah, dogs were made of stronger stuff then. And that's how I feel about Daniel.
That's kind of what I was thinking watching this movie. Is he's a tough man. He's incredibly tough and resilient, and I think that's kind of what gives him that drive in a way. He's practical. He is ruthlessly practical because that's what his life has required of him. Essentially, he's not cruel necessarily, but he is practical as much as he can.
We never get a glimpse of what made him. We never get a glimpse of the childhood. We get, obviously Henry's an entirely different matter, and we can do the armchair therapist of he hates that Mary's dad beats her, so he must have been beaten. We can make those easy jumps. Might not be as simple as that, but that's an easy read. And but just by proxy of history, you know that it wasn't good.
It just seems that whatever it is that he went through, it turned him into someone who refuses to be dominated no matter what happens to him in his life, sort of thing.
Competition in me. Yes,
it's in me, it's in you.
A couple of minutes in me. A couple of more 10-minute stretches. Eli's first sermon in the black clothes. Out, out, out! If I have no teeth, I will gum you.
Oh, I was electric, and it made me kind of think it's really a battle between two master orators in a way.
Yes,
it's always like this thing. Every time Eli and Daniel are on screen together, it's like a competition to see who can control the room with their voice in a way. And where Daniel Plainview is very loud and brash and can bring people in with sort of his slick talk, Eli is this very soft-spoken, manipulative type who knows he's got the people of the town kind of in his pocket in a way. So it's like the battle of these two master orators trying to influence the people of this town.
I think it's literally not until the final 10 minutes that you realize, I don't want to use the word obvious, but you realize, oh, this entire thing has just been a deconstruction and a physicalization of the most obvious battle in not just America, the world. Capitalism versus religion. Maybe not battle, but the two biggest forces that do their best to stay out of the way of one another.
Yeah, and the two that govern American life, I think, in a way that's somewhat unique.
Yeah.
It's,
to American.
it's,
yeah, no, I can see that.
That was another thing I was thinking. This is a very American movie. It is.
Indeed. We're going to talk more about that in just 1 second. And we're back. Okay, so
Hello again.
I have 4 more best 10-minute stretch nominations. Henry Plainview arriving with HW setting fire to him, and then unfortunately sending HW away. Let's break this down. So HW is on to Henry straight away.
Yeah.
What's that? Just bad it what's that? Just good intuition? I mean, he's definitely so there's no reason to actually know why he's there.
That was the thing when I was watching and HW set the fire. I couldn't think why. At the time, I was thinking, why did he do this? There didn't seem to be a reason, really.
I forget. Don't know the twist with Henry. Yeah, what did you think of Henry? Were you in, or did you?
I didn't trust him either. Yeah, it seemed a little too convenient. And I thought it was great that they did a fake out, Daniel's not actually going to kill him, and then we turn right around and in the very next shot, Henry's dead. I didn't trust him from the start, just about.
He's an off-kilter guy.
I suppose HW did pick up the diary. Probably could.
Yes.
Probably could have put 2 and 2 together from whatever's in there. Who knows?
That's all you need in the end, as we learned. I stole his diary, stole his laugh. I don't know. I don't know if the Henry stuff. It all works for me. I just wouldn't change anything. But the Henry stuff is always the stuff that feels weakest to me, but not really. I'm just saying this to start a conversation. I also think it's great.
I think it gave us some nice, it gave us a little bit of a peek into Daniel Plainview's life. And we got to see him show sort of genuine feeling for another person other than his son.
I think it sort of builds into a sort of harsher, sort of, fatal flaw for Daniel that isn't actually there. It leads you to believe that his fatal flaw is he'll accept any family because he has never had one, quote unquote, and so he wants family. But of course, that backfires because he kills Henry and he sends HW away. But of course, there's so many examples of you. And
I think it ties in. I think it ties into sort of his growing paranoia as the film goes on, and his lack of trust in people. This guy pretended to be his brother for I'm guessing about a year. It seemed. I always go back to the one time he lets someone in close and he gets burned, sort of thing.
Yeah, I always go back to Thomas Ripley about just how easy it must have been to pretend to be other people. Like all he does in that movie is just vaguely look like Jude Law, and he manages to get away with a lot.
You can say whatever you want. That was another thing I was thinking about. It must have been really easy back in the day for just anybody to start digging a hole in the ground and put an oil well on top of it.
Well, that's how it started. Anybody could do it. Anybody could, dig for gold. Yeah. But of course, like anything in this world, you've got to have money to actually make money.
Yep.
You can dig a hole, but you can't make it drink water, or whatever that phrase is. No, I have here, and then for me, the top 3 sort of back to. Well, no, Gusher and the fire, but then I've got the baptism. Give me the blood, Lord. Yes, give me the blood.
Yes, give me the blood. Oh God, his cocky little smirk the whole time. I just loved. It made me laugh out loud, that baptism. Just how even in that moment he's just thinking this is all such bullshit.
Mm. But
Do
then
it for the will.
it's
Do it for the will. Do it for the pipe.
but it still gets to him. I've abandoned my boy. I've abandoned my child.
And that's the thing that makes me think that he does have genuine care for HW, because the only thing that sets him off is people mentioning his failings as a parent. That he seems to be genuinely hurt by accusations that he doesn't care for his son. You know, it sets him off in a way that nothing else really does. Which, you know, that for me shows he, somewhere in him there is a genuine care for HW.
And what's the only thing that can override that? This makes us competitors.
Well, I think and also touching back on the whole battle of two master orators thing, the thing that really cuts him off from HW is the fact that HW can no longer hear him. And
David,
that's his thing. That's Daniel Plainview's thing. He can talk anybody into anything. You know, he can talk anyone around to his way of thinking if he needs to. And once he can't do that with his son anymore, that's the thing that severs the relationship for them, is that he can't just tell him what to do anymore.
David, this is why you're here. And then obviously HW's return, bastard in a basket, you're a bastard in a basket. Into
I want to hear you say it, not a little dog.
And then obviously the final scene when I was in drama in high school. I think it was year 5. No, year. Well, it would have been year 10. So I would have been year 10, year 11. I went to college. And I was, this is so boring. I would have been 13 or 14. And we had to bring a scene in, and it had to be from a play. And I had a male partner I was paired with, and I said, "Miss, can I please do, I want to do the final scene for There Will Be Blood." And in my head, I thought, I could do it. I'm going to be as good as Daniel Day-Lewis. And obviously, she said, no, it has to be from a play. And then
we all told ourselves we'll be just as good as Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah. So thank God that's not a memory that exists. But then we all had to do a scene from 2 bloody Jim Cartwright play, which is fine. But another one where we were all playing, I ended up in a scene with a great girl named Nicole, and she was we were 2 40-year-old parents who'd lost a kid in a car accident, and it was this huge big scene, and we were all shouting, and we were all very, bloody hell, we thought we were great. And then we had to do it outside. Then we had to do it outside in the wind for the school festival, and so all the subtlety of it being inside a small pub was now
you're screaming the lines at each other over the window.
Shall I turn the lights off? and it all came to this final moment of, no, I'll turn them off or whatever. And it was like, oh, I'll turn them off. We
had an outdoor performance of The Tempest, and we had a massive tower on that could be rolled in and out for Prospero to stand on. And in the middle of the performance, a massive windstorm kicked up. And while Prospero was up on top of the tower, the whole thing started to roll across the stage. And all of the tech people had to come running out from backstage to grab it and stop it from rolling away.
And you looked at them and said, "What don't you understand? That wind is ours. We can use it. We can make an immersive production. We can use that wind and it's all ours."
Oh, God. Yeah.
Any other nominations for 10-minute stretch? I would probably say I prefer the final scene to the gusher. However, I will never deny that is. I think it's 2 things. It's the best. Well, no, actually, that's a lie, because he's going to beat it in the master with the interview scene. Anyway, it's the single best dialogue scene between 2 people of the past 10 years, and it's the single best set piece of the past 10 years. So choose your fighter of what you prefer.
I think it's excellent. I really loved the opening 15 minutes. I think it sets up Daniel Plainview as a character perfectly. And then the very first lines of the movie are him trying to, convince this town hall to let him dig an oil well.
I am an old man. I am an old man.
I'm an old man. It's just great. That first 15 minutes, I mean, it just shows this man driven. Yeah, the very first thing he does after waking up at the bottom of a mine shaft with a broken leg is check if there was gold.
Yes. Well, in actuality, David, those are the first lines of the film because he says, "There she is, there she is." But it is true. People say that all the time, and it is effectively 15 minutes of sounds. Tom's weirdly specific favorite parts of the film: dropping down into the well, beat of blacks, and then sudden wake of. Yeah, incredible, satisfying. This isn't meant to sound the way it sounds. Satisfying huge rod plunging into depths. It's so satisfying to me. The very, very satisfying. Brutal splash of red when the wood snaps and kills HW's father.
Yeah.
This is where the humour starts coming in. I enjoy all faiths. I think them all. I like everything.
I like everything. Yes. I got way too much pleasure out of watching him punch Eli in the face.
Yeah.
When do we get our money? Smack!
Aren't you a healer? Why are you going to heal my son?
God.
And that's the sort of anger. Let's get dark. People who have never considered faith in their life are on their deathbed. Consider faith. People who have never considered faith in their life have a loved one who is ill and suddenly start praying. Daniel has never considered faith because he's never needed it. And then, I mean, obviously he's just saying that to taunt him. But if he was a true healer, Daniel would, on bended knee, come to Eli and say, "My son, I cannot hear." No.
And I think there's a real, another subtle way that they show that, Daniel Plainview is a moral person in a way, is that he does go to Eli after that man is killed at the bottom of the mine shaft or of the well. There was no need for him to have to go and talk to that guy, to have him come in and say some words for this person. He did it because he knew that's what that worker would have wanted, sort of thing. Which I don't know. I kind of liked that detail about him. There's things that you like about Daniel Plainview, and yet you see him on this, ultimately self-destructive path. It's great.
The HW, I love HW asking questions of Paul. I've got a few. How many sisters? I think he gets into the whole oil business very well. I like it. I love the Sunday father when Daniel goes, "Do you have any bread?" And then when they're walking away, "I'm sorry, we don't have any bread." It just makes me laugh. I don't know. All right. Yeah. It's all right. It's fine. It's fine. The goat's milk. Goats. David, would you,
Goat? Yeah, he was so specific about the goat's milk.
Goat's milk. I love milk.
Yes.
I think I could have a glass of goat's milk. I could have.
Have you ever had goat's milk?
No. Oh, is this an American thing? Do you have goat's milk?
I don't know if it's very much an American thing. I think I don't know. I've had goat's milk at some point in my life. I've had goat cheese as well.
No, I don't like cheese. I don't like cheese. When I come to your house in Florida, your mother's going to go, "Do you want a beer, a Pepsi, some goat's milk?"
Yeah, the fact that bar just had goat's milk on hand was a little strange.
I love a whiskey and goat's milk, which is actually my order when I go to.
I love that his cure-all for HW from day one is just splashing some whiskey in with whatever he's giving him to drink.
I love him bringing up Mary for the speech. I really like Daniel's affection for Mary and HW. I don't go into the theory that it's all fake. I just don't.
Yeah, no, I think he genuinely cares for HW and Mary. I think he's a complex person. He's a ruthless business tycoon, but he's also out to make something of a life for himself and his family, and he does give back to this little town. I think one of the cool ways that, and kind of subtle ways that they show the passage of time is with the train station and how it gets bigger and busier every time we come to it. The very first time we see it is them driving into this town, and there's about 5 buildings there.
Yeah.
And this tiny little train station. And by the end of the movie, it's a bustling little community, with a big busy train station. I always think
of Butch Cassidy and how you don't really realize how far into the 20th century that movie is. And, by the time this gets to 1927, there's been a whole war that everybody's gone through.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing to think that, but it's true that there was people alive, at the time of World War I in America that could remember the American Civil War. It's just crazy to me.
Obviously, H2 getting blown away, incredible practical effects, incredibly horrifying practical effects. Daniel running with H2 covered in oil.
Soaking wet in that was another shot that I thought was really shows us who Daniel Plainview is. I wrote it down. When Fletcher asks him, "Is HW all right?" No, he isn't, and he doesn't even take his eyes away from the oil well. Is HW okay? No, he isn't.
And again later. How's your son? Thank you for asking. Is there anything we can do?
Thank you for asking was enough.
And again, Henry, where's his mother? That doesn't concern him anymore. I don't want to talk about those things. And then obviously the incredible shot of him cradling the child, and HW is moaning and murmuring and vocalizing to try and rationalize that he can't hear anything. And again, Daniel just doesn't know what to do. He is a man of complete control. He can bring a burning oil rig to stop. Can he help his son? No. That's enough now. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? And then fade to black. The dinner table with Eli.
It was a heartbreaking scene.
The dinner table with Eli covered in mud, sat across from his father. That's just quite a funny.
You're a stupid man.
Daniel putting up his 3 fingers on 3 proven wells. That's 3 proven wells. 3.
You haven't been paying attention.
When Bandy finds him in the after killing. You've come to your sin. My sin of drilling.
And then he just hands him the gun.
I think my favorite line, I've said this to you many times before we even consider this, is above "I've abandoned my boy, my child," which is funny, which is brilliant. I've always loved. Yes, give me the blood, Eli. Just get me out of here. Give me the blood. Give me the blood. And then as he slapped again under his breath, there it is. There it is. Yes, there it is. And then his motivating sound after the water. Just incredible.
He's just taking the piss out of it as much as he can without crossing the line that would, lead to him losing that plot of land.
Everybody loves to make, a big deal about Al Pacino and, I'm a fan of man, devil's advocate, scent of a woman, and, when he goes over the top. He's no more over the top than Daniel Day-Lewis here. So what is the critical difference? I'm not saying the devil's advocate is a movie on par with There Will Be Blood.
Yeah, I don't know. It fits.
Yeah.
I mean, the vocal performance that Daniel Day-Lewis gives is over the top and, crazy sounding, I guess, but it fits Daniel Plainview. It fits the period well, I think, and it fits this character. It
grows more intense and manic.
Yeah. It's really, really, just excellent performances all around, really. What could you
And as we
expect?
know, I love movies with a destruction. I love movies where people go insane. I love movies where people go slowly mad. I love it. Where am I? When
England.
Tilford, I am in England. When Tilford talks to HW, you go, "Hello, HW." You don't have to shout.
You
And
don't have
then
to shout.
one of the funniest things maybe one of the funniest cuts I've ever seen to establishing a location is 1927, and then cut to a now severely alcoholic, severely manic Daniel shooting furniture
in his hallway and using his his little oh god, what is it?
like a bionicle, like a telescope.
Yeah, so his little surveying monocle to to check his shot.
Yeah. God, he's a great man. He's a dog. And then Mr. Daniel waking him up in the bowling alley. And then
I love I'm here to speak to Mr. Plainview. Yes. Are you Daniel Plainview? Yes.
Yes. And then it has one of my favourite gags in Rushmore, Wes Anderson's wonderful film Rushmore. Brian Cox is in a coma, and Max Fisher, who is the baby's life, played by Jason Schwartzman, comes, and his wife's going, "He probably won't talk to you. He hasn't talked in weeks." Brian Cox, obviously not Brian Cox, it's Brian Cox. And Max Fisher's here, and he goes, "What do you want?" And it's the funniest thing in the world. And they have the exact same gag here with Eli. "Daniel, your house is burning down.
Daniel, wake up! The house is on fire!"
And then, "Daniel, it's me, Eli Sunday." And then and then the snoring stops. It's the exact same gag as that hilarious movie. David, have you ever felt more reminiscent of seeing me at my lowest than when Daniel was eating his lamb chops and drinking neat vodka?
I was watching him eat that thing, and it looked like he was chewing on a piece of rubber.
Yeah. Maybe I was. Maybe I like rubber now. I mean, you can look at theatrical conventions and all that sort of thing, but he ends up directing it. Say it like you mean it. At the back row. And it becomes this whole...
in the back.
And again, it's what you're talking about. Orating. I'm a better performer than you. I can convince more people than you. I have to tell you what to do now. And his growl after yes he does. Yes he does. Yes. Drainage. And
Drainage. I drink your milkshake.
I've gotten to a point now where I prefer, if I've got a straw on my finger, across the room. I mean, obviously, I still prefer.
Watch it. Here it goes.
And then, I love visceral stuff and the throwing of the bowling balls, hitting the leg. It's absolutely. Yeah. We're family. I am the third revelation.
I am the third revelation.
It's absolutely incredible. Let's do some bullshit Oscars talk. Who else was not even nominated that year? Academy Awards for Best Actor, because I feel so sorry for them because there was just never a chance.
No one in this film was nominated at all.
Oh no! Sorry. No, Daniel won.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, holy shit.
No. Daniel Day-Lewis wins. Your other nominations are Viggo Mortensen in Eastern Promises, which is very good. Tommy Lee Jones in The Valley of Eli. Never even heard of that. Johnny Depp as Sweeney Todd. And George Clooney as Michael Clayton. Great film.
Yeah, no wonder Daniel Day-Lewis won.
Yeah. And then did Paul Dano get nominated? No nomination for Paul Dano.
That's a shame. Paul Dano, I love that as he came in as Paul at the very beginning, and I thought,
yes.
I could have sworn that guy was supposed to be playing the preacher later on.
Yeah. Well,
and
this is the thing, David. Did you know this? So originally
They
they're all
recast it.
played by two different people originally, and the original actor, maybe he was intimidated by Daniel, it seems, and so instead of casting a new actor as Eli, they made them twins, and brought Paul Dano in to also play Eli. Best twist of fate they've ever had.
I thought the performance of Eli was pitch perfect. I mean, it's great. I hated him from moment one.
Yeah.
I mean, as bad as Daniel Plainview is, I hated Eli.
Yeah. Interesting.
There's a whole movie. I never liked him once. I thought he, at least Daniel Plainview is honest about what he's out here doing. Eli was just slimy in a way that Daniel Plainview just isn't.
That so many, televangelists and the like are, whether he believes it or not, that he's a false prophet. At its core, he undoubtedly is. Any nominations, David, for those weirdly specific little moments that stick out more than others? I think we've touched on a lot, much like in the case of Boogie Nights. Just
a little moment of Daniel Plainview in his rocking chair outside of his office tent with the telescope, and he kind of looks around and then pulls it out and leans back instead of forward to look over at Eli's house. He leans backwards so that he's looking through the screen, and I just thought, that's a clever little thing. It stood out to me for some reason. But no, other than that, the moment of the gas explosion, coming up through those floorboards, and the oil worker basically shouting out gas as it burst through, I thought this was really good. Lights out, lights out. Yeah. All good stuff.
It's truly true. I mean, it's not laughable, but that's the wrong word. But it's hilarious anytime it cuts to him in just there's so these beautifully developed shots and creations, with all the little details. They're full of so many little details that every single time it cuts to him, it's beautiful and weird and so evocative of a place.
You really feel anchored in this world throughout the whole movie. The sense of place is very strong. Another thing that occurred to me, another weird little moment that I liked was just it's not too long after the fire and the explosion and everything, and it's just a shot inside the derrick of the man pulling the rope up and down, and then behind him is a blacksmith with an open flame just bashing away at a heated piece of metal. Thought that's a really weird place to put a blacksmith.
It's also just the sort of detail that goes into organizing.
Yeah. Every
element of these things. I mean, there's just nothing like it, really. So let's talk about Jack Fisk. Let's talk about best building or set in honor of Will Leggetter. Let's talk about the incredible sets of Jack Fisk here. The oil derricks. I mean, the new church, the bowling alley. I could go controversial and say that I like the bowling alley best, but obviously the oil derricks.
I thought the bowling alley was great. I thought it was great. Such a weird place. And Daniel Plainview seems to have a habit of sleeping on the floor.
Yes,
a lot.
He does.
Not sure why, but yeah.
Well, it's I don't know. I met a guy who preferred to sleep on the floor because it was better for his back, and maybe with all the booze and with his leg injuries and all that stuff, he just is more comfortable.
All his time spent hunched over in a tunnel with a pickaxe.
Yeah, that'll do something to your back, and I mean,
Well, I mean, by the end of the movie, he's walking around with a hunchback and those super wide legs, like he's just trying to keep himself upright, you know?
On purpose or not, he ends up completely looking like Richard III, Shakespeare's greatest villain. So, you know, it's one of those things. I think the second church with that incredible cutout of the cross that illuminates the whole place. I mean, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. And it frames Daniel really, really nicely and during the baptism scene. Just a really well composed shot.
Where should we go next, David? Let's see. We normally go. Yes, indeed. Oh, well, let's go here. Let's touch on this before we take our second break. Best single minute. I'll reel off the nominations I have here, and then we'll see if you've got any others. In the Well with HW's father, the breathing after the having too much oil, and I mean, there's lots of stuff about him maybe being a vampire and all that sort of stuff, but there are those moments where, why doesn't he have his mask up? Why doesn't he have his mask? Does he think he's above it? Does he think the oil, you know, I'm fine, I can, you know, but it gets too much for him.
I think he's the sort of person who just throws himself fully into something in a way.
Yeah.
Like he's too determined to notice, really. He's solely focused on the task at hand at all times, sort of thing.
Then obviously the initial pitch monologue, if it's an old man, then I'm an old man. And the introduction to the sort of monologue that he will repeat multiple times across the piece. I have buying the land. What would you like, Eli? $10,000. For what? For my church. That's a good one. And it's sort of that thing of like, yeah, okay, that's as good a string of bullshit as I've ever heard. Good for you, Eli. Yes, go for that bullshit. I mean, I always think of Network, you know, when he's talking about, you know, bullshit. And then if, you know, if that's not good enough for you, then there's the God bullshit. And everything's, you know, incredible. Paddy Chayefsky there. Lovely little moment of HW and young Mary. Just not, I don't think you can call it flirting because they're both kids, but that first connection of just them, how much think we can get for the land, you know, and all that.
How much money do you think we'll make?
I don't know. And then when he grabs young Mary when she's running around, no more hitting now. I'll take care of you. No more hitting. And then cut to the, again, play for comedy almost. Cut to the reverse and find that the father's been sat there the entire time,
sitting right there listening. Yeah.
And it's a comedy cut in this serious moment. Slap down at the pond, as we mentioned earlier. Leaving HW on the train, that one take as he slowly walks away. Swimming with Henry, just how do you make that look so good with these old cameras? Anyway, killing Henry, going back to the pickaxe to dig a grave. It's that sort of, at that point, it becomes a story of regression. And he regresses back to who he used to be. And obviously, in the end, he regresses to this, I don't know, ape-like creature huddling around, waddling around his mansion.
Throwing bowling balls at people.
I mean, this film is certainly Kubrickian in many of its facets. And to have a final death that mirrors the 2001 gorilla killing with a bone, I don't think that's not on purpose. Taking HW out for a meal and that whole napkin business that he think, you know, just to make his son laugh.
I was wondering about that. Why the hell he threw that over his face just to announce to everyone, I beat you, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's my son over there. You told me.
You look like a fool. Yes, you do.
Yeah. I've got it here. You look like a fool, don't you, Tilford? Yes, you do. Excuse me, gentlemen. Yes, excuse him. Excuse me, gentlemen. Well, excuse me, gentlemen. Again, those tiny deliveries. You look like a fool, don't you, Tilford? Incredible stuff. Have I missed anything there, David? Best single minute nominations? I mean, we've touched on a lot already in broad strokes.
I mean, I think the conversation between, if you can call it a conversation, between Daniel and Fletcher I just really loved his delivery of, is HW okay? No, he's not.
Yeah.
Just that line really hit me for some reason, and just the way that his eyes didn't even leave the oil well for a second, as he, pondered the fact that his kid is laying in the medical tent, fucked up.
Gotta carry on. You gotta just carry on.
Gotta keep going.
Gotta keep going. I've brought in a new one that we've got time for just before the next break. This got mentioned on bonus pod, so everything is always out of order. Best specific Halloween costume. I've got here baptized Daniel, so you would be covered in water the whole night, and your girlfriend or whatever, or your friend would have to keep dousing you in water. That'd be funny. If you're, topless swimming, where you go around topless, but wearing those like old Victorian
wearing the long underwear,
or the final cardigan, and I think for me it's the final cardigan.
Yeah. I do love. I liked his prospector outfit there at the very beginning.
That is good. Well, we can
he just looks weathered.
We can go together, and you can be the start, and I can be the end.
Yeah, we'll just be Daniel Plainview at different levels of regression.
Yeah. I mean, our iconic Halloween costume of playing Armand and what their names? Armand Goldman. Armand.
Yeah, it's Armand and. Oh my God, I can't remember the name of Robin Williams' character.
Armand? Fred. No, it's not Fred.
Oh.
Armand Goldman. Oh, this is going to drive me mad. Armand! All I can hear is Armand.
Yeah. Hold on.
I've got it. No, he's Armand, and Nathan Lane is Albert.
Oh yes, that's what it was. Oh God, I can't believe us right now.
Leave room for coffee.
Leave room for coffee.
Right. Okay. So
my pierce the
toe. Why not kill the mothers? Anyway, before we do a Birdcage episode, which is coming, we will take one more break and talk about a far less hilarious movie. There will be blood. Okay, then. So final addendums now. Best line, David. What would you say if I told you I have a competition in me? I want no one else to succeed. I hate most people. There are times when I look at people and I see nothing worth liking. I want to earn enough money so I can get away from everyone. I see the worst in people. I don't need to look past them, seeing them to get all I need. I've built up my hatreds over the years, little by little.
And you relate very strongly to this, yes.
I if you break it down, I do have a competition. I do want other people to succeed. I do hate those people. There are times when I look at people and see nothing worth liking, and I'm often right. And so years of being proven right has led this to be only more firm in my mind. Is there any part of that you agree with, David?
No, I can't say that I agree with Daniel Plainview's view on people, but I can see very much how he arrived there.
David, I don't know if you saw the teaser trailer for this, but it is just that monologue over certain shots of the film. Can you imagine that being your advertising? Get ready to meet Daniel Plainview. He runs a business, but he's also a dad. I have a competition in me. I mean, obviously, yeah.
I don't want to see other people succeed.
Yeah, can you imagine? Obviously, for most people, that's going to compel. But how did that get past a studio releasing that as their teaser of, this is the guy you're going to be with for 2 hours and 38 minutes.
And it's a great 2 hours and 38 minutes.
It's a phenomenal 2 hours and 30. Well, this is the thing, isn't it? This is when Oscar prestige leads your movie. You can do whatever you want. What's next? We can eat and get some women. Take them down to the P.T.A. dance. I say, lick it up and take them down to the P.T.A. dance. What else have I got here? Oh yeah, aren't you a healer and a vessel for the Holy Spirit? When are you coming over and make my son hear again? Can't you do that? Any other big ones, David, before I get to some more specifics?
Give me the blood. That's right. Give me the blood. There it is. There it is.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I've
That's
got
about
here.
it for me.
Realised first sermon, managing to be blasphemous twice. That was one goddamn hell of a show.
Yes. Oh, I loved that little just kick. Oh God, so good.
I've got here
the fact during his blessing of the well, when he brings Mary up, he's a daughter of these hills, and looks right into Eli's eyes. Yeah. It's like, fuck you, I'm not gonna let you speak.
Yeah,
I'll bless the well myself.
Yeah. We were going to pray. Yes. Yeah, I can bless them, Again, not really a top line, but just anytime, what is this? Why don't I own this? Why don't I own this? Anytime I look at the map.
You think I can build around 50 miles of mountains? Yeah. Don't be stupid in front of me.
Yeah, don't be thick in front of me, Al.
Don't be thick in front of me.
Again, when HW comes home from what we presume is a sort of school for the deaf and dumb, that does me good. That does me good. And then again, lovely little bit of exposition to just show how much time has passed. Oh, you're too heavy. When he tries to pick him up, yeah. Again, when he takes him out for a dinner, I believe we ordered these drinks before those people. Again, he's ridiculed Eli to finally admit I'm a false prophet, and God is a superstition. Those areas have already been immediately.
Areas have already been drilled.
Yeah, I love God. Eli. Yes, God has completely failed to alert me to the panic in our economy.
To this economic upset. my investments.
Yeah. God, I love Eli. And then Mr. Daniel, I'm finished. I mean,
I'm finished. What a great last line.
What an incredible ending. The balls.
I think it sums up the movie, because the movie really is about, like, look at the stuff Daniel Plainview is going to do. Like, what will he do next? And it really is, that's the last thing he had to do, was get one over on the one guy that did him dirty back in the day, sort of thing. Yeah. That he got his last victory. He beat the one competitor that he really cared about.
Yeah. And
now he's finished. That's all he needed to do.
And it's like any sort of narcissistic individual, or sociopathic or whatever, it's an easy blame. I'm sure he blames him for the breakup of his relationship with his son. I'm sure he blames him for being the son going to death. As he does when he's talking to, when Eli says it could have been avoided so easily if the well was. Well, it could have been avoided if people weren't up here all day preaching with you and praying with you. Wouldn't that be? They get tired, and already it's blaming other people, and it's an easy blame, and that's the sort of thing that sticks with you. Yes, those are my lines. Yeah. What's the change, David? Do you have anything that jumps to mind?
Nothing really. Everything feels like it's a part of this world, and it all feels like it adds to the story. I think, like you said, the stuff with Henry is maybe the weaker element, but I don't even really feel like it's. I feel like it builds on.
Oh yeah.
Gives us a more subtle view of. It gives us a more complete view of Daniel Plainview.
Yeah.
Plainfield.
I've got here that they sort of decide that nobody's going to talk the first 15 minutes. And so there's the awkward bit where they find oil and he drags his hand and he raises it. And nobody's excited. Nobody says anything. Nobody says, look, there's oil. Nobody says anything. And it's clearly because they've decided there's not going to be any dialogue for the first 15 minutes. But again, that is some stupid picnicky stuff. I've got here, I don't like the line, I'm your brother from another mother. I know that.
Oh, yeah. I'm your brother from another mother.
This doesn't, I know it's not anachronistic because he probably would say that, but it just doesn't. Anyway,
to our modern ears, it doesn't sound quite right.
Yeah. And and then 1920. I famously, when it pops up with years and all that sort of thing, even though I use that stuff all the time in my own screenplays, I'm a horrible cynic and horrible what's the word? Contradicts. Contradictory individual. I'm a contradictory individual. I hate title cards, but I love using them in my own work. I use screenplay techniques when they suit me, but not when
but I can't accept it when they suit other people.
Not when they're in the greatest movies ever made.
I have a competition in me. I hate to see other people using film titles.
Yeah. And so 1927 for me always feels like, oh, but why? Especially when the image of Mary signing at the wedding is such a beautiful encapsulative image and tells that they're 20 years older in one beautiful shot. I mean, I know it's one of those stupid things. I just never get over it. But anyway, that's one of those things. The most egregious one is in Us, when they do the whole VHS. It's 1985 at Coney Island. And then the next scene, 1985 at Coney Island. So, anyway, and it wasn't even as a joke, because I also hate those, as you saw with See How They Run. Flashbacks are the worst thing a writer can use. 3 years earlier, I was like,
you're not a fan of meta shit.
This is the thing. It's to an extent. Anyway, those are
There's
my
an
only
appropriate amount of meta bullshit that I can handle.
I enjoy the play by Robert Altman. I enjoy these movies, but when it comes to every line, when it comes to a lack of sincerity, this should be my new character. Daniel, yeah, we're talking about modern movies.
You're gonna dissolve into Daniel.
Well, I do love meat and vodka.
You'll be all set.
A few fun facts. While on location in Marfa, Texas, David, another film was shooting, No Country for Old Men. And many times they had No Country for Old Men had to stop shooting because of a series of huge billowing smoke clouds that were across the country. Of course, they got their own back when they won the Oscar.
I'm curious. Did they get an actual coal-fired locomotive in for the train shots? Because I can't think of how else they did that.
This is the thing, isn't it? How else can you do?
Did they build a fucking railroad track in the middle of the desert and put a train on it?
I'm sure there's like old-timey railroads still around America.
Oh, there's plenty of old railroads. I just don't know how many are perfectly positioned to shoot a movie around.
I don't know. I was at King's Cross the other day and it was really, really busy. I was like, oh, why? I was late for my train because it got delayed. And the Flying Scots was in King's Cross. And it was and I was like, oh, great, look at that. But I had to just keep going because I was going to miss my train because they cancelled it and I had to get a new train. Anyway.
But if you'd gotten on, you could have become a transphobe, Tom.
A transphobe? What have I missed?
Like J.K. Rowling.
Is the Flying Scotsman what they used for Hogwarts Express?
I could have sworn it was, unless I'm thinking of a completely different train.
I don't know. And also, she tweeted saying, that's why I'm a transphobe, because I got on that train. Wait, I'm confused. J.K. Rowling or Robert Galbraith? Anyway, me and Will have a long-standing joke about Robert Galbraith. There's nothing really actually to the joke. It's just saying the name Robert Galbraith. Anyway, Johnny Greenwood's score this was very well received. It was not eligible for the Oscar because it used some stuff he'd already scored, and it has to be a completely original score. Same sort of Oscars.
I really did love the score in this, and it did such a great job of setting the tone and just making the whole world seem terrifying, and like something was going to go horribly wrong at every moment.
Yeah.
I mean,
the rhythmic tribal drums that crack in during the gusher and the fire that only build and build and build and build, and then nothing, and he's not spooning his son. Oh yeah, spooning his son. It's
basically, yeah,
incredible. Every Wednesday night during editing, Paul Thomas Anderson and company would have steak and straight vodka for dinner to keep the mentality of Daniel Plainview. Again, is that true?
That's when you just have an incredible budget. You know, you say, you know what I'm going to do with this? I'm going to let me and my friends eat steak every fucking night that we make this movie.
A couple of changes from the script, David. In the script, there was a lot more times where Daniel would say, I love you, to H.W. But of course, in the movie, he only says it once when he comes home from the school. He goes, I love you. Oh, gotta be. In the original script, it was a tumbler that was being used to kill Eli, and then he was thrown down. And then they threw his body through the bowling pins into the cellar beyond.
Holy shit!
Which would have also been great, but maybe a little too. Maybe a little
too gory for you.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe a little bit too blunt. What else? Oh yes, and then here's one, David. Deleted scene from the screenplay reveals that Daniel is impotent, and he tells Henry, "My cock doesn't work," which is a line that definitely should have been kept in. That is incredible. David, if that line was in the movie, how many times do you think I would have said it to you on a daily basis?
I think it would have been something that would have been mentioned the very first time we met.
My cock doesn't
I want you to know, my cock doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
You know what movie that's from?
And in the scene where they go to the brothel and Henry asks for money, Daniel went performed oral sex on a woman and then leaves. That's all he can do. So he's all about giving. Daniel, he's all about giving back to the earth.
You know, he doesn't seem like much of a giver.
I don't know. Maybe no, because he might see it as a goal. Like, I have something to achieve.
I will bring this woman to climax.
Yeah, something I must do. Tagline rundown. When ambition meets with faith, there will be blood, and there will be greed, there will be vengeance, there will be blood. So both very biblical, both very fitting. Tom's big question, is this movie better or worse with Paul Dano playing both roles?
You know, honestly, I think it's perfectly fine the way it is. Paul is in for such a short amount of time that I don't think it necessarily matters. Could have done it either way.
Yeah, I think it's good. We've talked about the relationship with HW. Talked about his relationship with Mary, Mrs. Hunter, and her arthritis. What happens when she comes in the next day and she's like, "I still got arthritis, Eli"?
That's what I was thinking. But there's plenty of evangelical preachers that have been.
No, I know. I mean, I wrote a whole script about it, about people, rather than treating their cancer, giving the money, and
people can rationalize anything when they want to believe something,
Yeah, God. And with HW now doing his own drilling, does he end up with Mary by his side? Is he a well-adjusted individual, or does he also become his father? Is the legacy of greed and violence that it consumes us all?
Possibly, but I think the fact that he's walking away from his father tells us. I mean, that last line that he gives, "I'm so glad that there's none of me in you, or none of you in me." Yeah. Which I think tells us everything we need to know. I think HW is going to be just fine. I don't know if his business is going to succeed, but I don't think he's going to end up like his father. Because if he wanted to, he would have stuck around and found a way to become part of his father's business.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, do you have to be a little bit like Daniel to be a good businessman.
Possibly to succeed in the way that he has. I mean, we all know my opinions on rich people, Tom. I don't think there's any such thing as a moral billionaire. I think to attain that level of wealth, you have to be fucked up in some way.
What's the movie that would get you most angry? Should I bring you on for like Wall Street and Wolf of Wall Street?
I mean, I've seen Wolf of Wall Street. I enjoy it.
My hot take, like Wolf of Wall Street and like all of these movies and Boogie Nights and just Catch Me If You Can too. Just let them do what they're doing. Just let them, Goodfellas. Just let them be. Just let them be. Why does anything have to go wrong? Well, I've always said the best TV channel would be fading out of movies an hour in. Boogie Nights. Boogie Nights before the New Year's Eve party. Goodfellas.
Just end at the high point.
Yeah. Goodfellas, like, cut around the Christmas party and end on a fun Christmas party. Wolf of Wall Street, well, just cuts before he goes to prison. And, I just let all these people be happy. I know these are all awful people.
I was going to say, the guy that Leonardo DiCaprio's character is based on in Wolf of Wall Street is doing just fine.
Yeah, Jordan Belfort. Again, does he get the joke? He's there in those final moments. Hi, I've got a great guy here to show you. It's like, okay. Oh, anyway, right. There will be blood, David. Next up is, well, this is a turning point. The man this movie has no actors he's ever worked with before. And, pair that with...
Philip Seymour Hoffman was noticeably absent.
Yeah, which then he comes back for The Master. Yeah. And it's very nice to have him in one of these sort of darker character study pieces before, of course, his untimely death.
R.I.P.
Rest in peace. And I'm sure I'll make the argument when we record that The Master may very well be his best performance of all.
We shall see.
We shall see. David, it was my distinct pleasure as always. And I don't know. If I was to have one word left to say for you, David, it would probably be something like drainage.